That's one of the things when people say, well, how do I start to be more convenient in my business? Take a look at the businesses that you enjoy doing business with, not in your industry. I mean, if you want to look at companies in your industry, that's fine, but definitely go outside of the industry. You said you like Amazon and Starbucks, okay? So what is it you like about them? Make a list of those attributes and then say, okay, can I do any of those in my business? And if I could, what would that look like? How would I go about it? And that's the first step toward finding some opportunities to create convenience.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a terrific one. Our returning guest is a customer service expert and New York Times best-selling author. His mission is to help companies deliver amazing customer service experiences, and we're so happy to have him back on the show. Shep Hyken, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks, and appreciate you having me back. It's an honor and a privilege.
Well, it's great to have you back, and it's been 2 years since you were on the show, and you're one of the people that I actually read your tweets a lot. I think it always just sort of, whenever I see one of your tweets on my Twitter profile, it always just has me thinking about our customers and how are we doing? And, not that we're amazing at customer service, but it's one of the things that I aspire to do, the things that you talk about. So Shep, it's been 2 years since we've had you on the show. What's new with you?
Well, since we last spoke, I had a new book, actually probably two books come out. Right about the time we did the show, I had a book, Be Amazing or Go Home, which is about great habits that people have to instill confidence with their customers and really any relationship they have. And then just last October, a year ago, this week, and I'm not sure when anybody's listening to the show, but if they happen to be listening to it in the October-November timeframe, it's been about a year. My latest book is called The Convenience Revolution. And it's really, I think that's a huge opportunity that any size business has. And that is be easier to do business with. Make it easier on your customers.
Wow. What a great topic. And how has the book been doing?
It's kicking it, man. It's in a good way. It didn't kick over. No, it's doing a great job. And here's why. I mean, I'm happy to talk about the concepts. I'm always a little uncomfortable saying this is a great book, and I'm not telling you it's the greatest book ever. I don't believe this is my best book that I've written, but it is from the standpoint of I've written concepts that I love and that I'm going to use the rest of my life and hope others do. But this book, for the time, may be the most important book I've written. Here's why. Many companies, and if you look at all the stats and facts, companies are no longer competing with direct competitors. They're competing with the best service that they've received from anyone. And that really, and when I say competing, they're recognized by their customers as like, and I actually, let me rephrase this, Michael. How about I ask you a question? What's the most convenient company that you do business with, that you buy from, any type of business? I bet you know the answer.
Well, the first one that came to mind was Starbucks.
Starbucks is so easy, and they're a feature in the book. Correct.
Beautiful. And the second one is Amazon.
Exactly, right. And I would say Amazon trumps Starbucks in the typical question and answer here, but here's why. Why do you like Starbucks?
Consistent. Well, for me, I love coffee a certain way. I like great coffee. I spent 2 years down in Australia living there, and I think they make the best coffee in the world, and they're little baristas. And so it's very difficult to find that
you don't want to upset the Colombians now. I'm just warning you.
Well, they use Colombian beans, but it's the way they prepare it. The baristas in Australia, I mean, they're gas stations. They have baristas in their gas station in Australia. So Australians love great coffee. And it's better than the Starbucks that you'll get here in North America. However, Starbucks has for on the go and in your local neighborhood, Starbucks has one of the most consistent, for me anyways, consistent deliverables in terms of the coffee that I like. I like a flat white, which is an Australian coffee. Thankfully, Starbucks brought it to North America, but it's a flat white and they do it the best. Now, there's some other local places that I go that do better, but if I'm out and about in the world, I just know every time it's like flat white, it's going to be what I expect it to be.
All right. And I think by you saying when I'm out and about in the world is what convenience is all about. So there's two principles that you talked about in that example. The first is consistency. And we may have talked about this before, but I've been preaching this for years. A consistent and predictable experience. And that could be in the product experience, which is that flat white coffee you're talking about, or it could be in the service experience. But consistency and predictability create an owned experience by the customer. You own it. You know you're going to get it. It's like, that's what you love about it. And you use the word always followed by something positive. Like, they're always so knowledgeable when I call them. They always call me back quickly. They always, and you can fill in the blank with something positive. And that shows a consistent and predictable experience, which gives you an opportunity to create confidence. And ultimately, confidence could lead to repeat business and even loyalty. But you also said something else. First of all, you used the word neighborhood, implying that it's fairly close by. But you also said, and when I go other places, meaning there's accessibility to this product in multiple locations. Accessibility is the sixth principle of the 6 convenience principles I talk about in the book, Convenience Revolution. And that is, how accessible are you? And that could be logistically accessible, such as a Starbucks. If you live in a major city like New York City, you can walk down the street and there's a Starbucks in almost every major block in every area. Think about that. That's accessibility. Walmart, for example, has so many stores that I can't remember the stat. It's in the book, but it's something like, 80% of the population lives within 10 or 12 minutes of a Walmart. That's amazing, maybe even higher than that. I don't want to misspeak, but that's a pretty staggering statistic. That's accessibility. And then hours of operation are accessibility. Amazon's open 24/7. But what you like about Amazon is their convenience. You don't have to get in your car and drive anywhere. You just go online, open it up, lots of selection, lots of reviews to help you decide what you want. They even tell you if it's sold in another place less expensively and let you buy it through their Amazon system, but from somebody other than Amazon. That's pretty convenient. So that's really, you talked about consistency, you talk about convenience. So at the end of the day, everybody's trying to deliver a better service experience. And actually, strike that. Not everybody, but the companies that decide they want to deliver a better service experience, they're taking on direct competitors as well as being compared to great companies like Amazon and Starbucks and many others. So what can you do to take it to the next level? Well, we can be nice, courteous, always friendly, always knowledgeable, always calling people back. But what if we just were more convenient? What if we could do something that would separate us from the competition by just making it easier on our customers? That's the next level. And that's why I think this book is kind of like a thought leadership book. And if everybody starts thinking about how to be easier to do business with, not just with customers, but with colleagues, then I think we are on our way to creating a better customer, or in the case of many of our listeners today, a better client experience.
I love it. And I think it has me think about our own work that we do. So we help bookkeeping firms fulfill on the promise of their product by building systems and process. We document the systems and processes and the best practices to put out a file for a business owner, for an accountant. And Michael Gerber wrote about it 35, 40, getting on closer. Yeah. I've been saying 35 years for the last 10 years, so let's call it like 45 years. But Michael Gerber wrote E-Myth, and it's all about building a system-driven business. And so we do that work to help them, because when you do it by a system, when you have a system and a best practice that you're following and your staff can follow, your customer gets the same thing more often. Now, not all the time. People make mistakes. We still have humans that err, thankfully. And yet when you do it, it shows up at the customer, the end user, in a predictable way. And that's kind of like the flat white. I get it. It's predictable. Now, it's not always that way. I will say that about Starbucks. It's not always great because they have people in there and they're the ones that making the coffee. And there is still discrepancy between one barista and another barista. But it has us think about, Shep, as well. When you said that, one of the things that we, as a small business, it's sometimes frustrating to think, oh, gee, we can't be, as good as Amazon, or we don't have the resources to do as good a job of that as a company ourselves. But one little simple thing that we implemented was a product called Intercom, which is a little bubble at the bottom of every single website, every single interaction that we could ever have with us. There is that little bubble that if you clicked on there, you will have a conversation with a real person within probably 12 to 24 hours, maximum 24 hours.
And by the way, we are getting ready to embark on a survey. I want to know what good response time is. And so, and it's different in every channel. If you're on a computer in the middle of the night and you want to speak to somebody and a little box pops up, thanks for your interest. Our hours are 8 to 5 and we promise to call you within the first 2 hours that we're in. I think that sets a good expectation. But I've seen some, terrible statistics related to the amount of time it takes to return a phone call, respond to an email. In some cases, it's days. And what bothers me is that what's skewing those statistics are the ones that take 10 days, not 1 day. So
that's right. And I will say, Shep, there have been times where I've missed things, calls, getting back to people. I mean, it might get busy and we are a small company. And so one of the things that I've thought about and tried to do is to create channels that I know we won't miss and that enable us to actually get back to people faster. And that's why I love Intercom. Reason I started using Intercom was it was on a few sites that I was a customer of. And I was like, wow, this blew me away at how, not that often it would come back very quickly. Like if it's within business hours, I would get a response really fast and it's just like having a chat. But it wasn't like those chat boxes where you had to sit and then it's like, let me find you an agent. And then you might sit there. It's like, sorry, there's no agent here. And like, well, that was a waste of time. This is more, I think the technology got better and it's more, hey, we might be here, but leave us a note. We'll get back to you. And then boom, all of a sudden you can start chatting with somebody. So I think it's doing what you can as a small business, from my perspective, doing what you can. And if you see something that you see in the world that's convenient, well, maybe it's something that the listener can implement in their business. Sometimes some of these things have costs that are not accessible today, but there's a lot of things, like you said, that can be done that make your business better, but by very simple means.
Right. I think what you just said regarding to looking at other businesses, that's one of the things when people say, well, how do I start to be more convenient in my business? Take a look at the businesses that you enjoy doing business with, not in your industry. I mean, if you want to look at companies in your industry, that's fine, but definitely go outside of the industry. You said you like Amazon and Starbucks, okay? So what is you like about them? Make a list of those attributes and then say, okay, can I do any of those in my business? And if I could, what would that look like? How would I go about it? And that's the first step toward finding some opportunities to create convenience. The next step, and as long as we're talking about it, let's go ahead and do a little bit deeper dive here.
Please do.
Is to create a journey map of the typical client experience. And that means, what's it look like when a client's considering doing business with your firm? And what's the process that they go through in making that decision? How quickly do you return a phone call? Do you make them come to you, or do you get in your car and drive to them, or maybe fly to them, if depending upon where the client is? What are you doing to make it better? And look at those touch points along the way and say at each individual interaction that client potentially has with us, what are we doing to make it a better interaction? And is it something we could just increase the experience? Might be how the firm answers the phone. It could be, is there something we could do to make it easier? Is there something we could do quicker than we've done in the past? Look at all those interaction points and find ways to improve on them.
So simple, really. And it just takes probably a coffee down at your local Starbucks to sit down and start mapping this out.
Right. For small businesses, this becomes very easy. The larger the business, the harder it is because there's so many different journeys that your clients and customers can take with you. And then you've got your first-time customers, your repeat customers. I know we've got a lot of bookkeepers and CPAs listening. And, think about it. What are the busy times of the year? I know my CPA used to say, well, it used to always be around April, but now there's so many other opportunities throughout the year creating these busy times that they have to take a look at an entire year's worth of a journey.
Now, Shep, in terms of the customer journey, do you recommend talking to your client and understanding maybe some of the things they've liked, or asking them how they could make things easier for them?
So there's lots of information. I think this is where we're going with this. There's lots of information out there that prove that the customer's perception of their experience is different than the provider of the experience. I think that's what you're going for.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really, it's amazing the stats where a leader of a company or a manager say, oh yeah, we give great service. And you go out and you ask the clients or the customers, they go, no, it's actually pretty bad. But we tolerate it because you know what? They're the best dog in a horse race or something. I don't know. And that's completely unacceptable in my mind, but that's what happens. So a couple of things. Number one, the customer or client's perception is the only one that counts. Okay. So what we think is a good experience may be average at best. And let me give you a very generic example of how perceptions play into a role. You know about the golden rule? And it's not he who has the gold makes the rules. No, the real golden rule, do unto others as you would want done unto yourself. Well, my friend, Dr. Tony Alessandra, came up with the platinum rule idea, which is do unto others as they want done unto themselves, not necessarily what you want done unto yourself.
Interesting.
So I had a friend, I made friends with this guy. He was the bellman at the Ritz-Carlton here in St. Louis. And really interesting, when he's going on vacation, I go, so they give you great employee rates at the Ritz? Yeah. And is that where you stay when you go on vacation? He goes, oh, no. I honestly, I need to get away from it. I'm happy with a nice, taking a road trip with my family, stopping at some nice highway, hotels that have a nice pool. And, so he's looking at the exact opposite of what he would normally give his customers. You follow me? So we can't assume that everybody thinks the same. So when I talk about how to be amazing, and you're going to think I'm going down a completely different direction, but bear with me for a moment. The concept of amazement is really in the customer's eyes. We want to create an amazing experience. And I use the word amazing just to describe an excellent experience. So on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is poor and 5 is excellent or amazing, where does satisfactory fall?
Well, you know what? It would be, in my first guess would be 2.5, but you know what? Halfway through, and that's maybe just the way we think.
Yeah, it's halfway through. Well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 3 is right in the middle. 2.5 is half of 5, but on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 is poor, 2 is fair, 3 is satisfactory, 4 is good, 5 is excellent. Well, another word for satisfactory is average. That's right in the middle, average. So what do you need to do to be amazing? You just need to be a little bit better than average. And going back to a word that you used to describe Starbucks at one point was consistency. You need to be consistently better than average. And that means that if you ask your client to rate you on the last experience, okay, they're going to give you a 5 as long as you're never average. They'll probably give you a 5 as long as you're not average. How much better than average do you have to be? Well, a little bit better, but it's consistent and predictable. Horst Schulze is the first president and the co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton chain. And he said, if you were 10% better than average all of the time, you'll be recognized as one of the top brands in the world. Wow. Just 10% better. Now, let's put your accounting hat on again. What's 10% better than 3? 3.3. Looks to me like the bar is pretty low. So all you've got to do is be a little bit better than average. But if you're a little better than average all the time, people are going to go back to, and I use that word again, always. They're always so quick to return my call. They always respond when I need them. They always are knowledgeable. They always get me the information I need. Even when there's a problem, I know I can always count on them. And that word always followed by something good. So I know I've beaten that horse to death, maybe a dead horse to death. But let me just go on to go back to your original statement or question. And that is that 3.3, that 10% better than average, you've got to understand the customer's expectations to deliver at that level. So that 3.3 is a sliding scale depending upon the client that you're talking to.
I love it. And I think, the thinking for me is often I personally can think in extremes, right? If someone said, well, I expect it to be a 5 looks like this. And sometimes that looks almost impossible to deliver on that. Mm-hmm. But when we think of it this way, we don't have to deliver a 5 in terms of the perspective of the customer. We have to deliver just 10% beyond average.
Right.
Which
all
is
of the time.
All of the time.
Say it all
right.
the time.
So,
all the time. 3 words. All the time.
All
3
the
words
time.
that will not be easy. That's the part that makes it hard.
That's the part that makes it hard. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. When somebody says, and I'm going to kind of make this is a fun part where somebody says, how'd you like your experience? If somebody says fine, it was fine. What is fine? Fine's not fine.
Fine's not
Michael,
good.
Are you married? Are you married?
I am.
I know you got a little baby because I've seen that picture of that little baby, cute little baby.
That's right.
So if you say, hey, is everything okay? And your spouse says, everything's fine. What does fine mean? It means you're in trouble is what it means.
Yeah.
Fine is not fine. Fine is not average.
I hear it a lot.
Yeah. When it comes to customer experience, fine is the F-bomb of customer experience and service. You've got to be better than fine, better than average. Like I said, we could beat that horse to death, and I think we're doing it right now.
It's good to do it, though. It's refreshing. I find it refreshing because anybody that cares about their business, cares about their customers, wants to continually do better. And not that it can be a tough thought or conversation to have where it's like, yeah, we have work to do or whatever. We always have work to do. This is refreshing in that it leads to long-term legacy, long-term growth, long-term success. And it's simple. It's still hard, but it is simple. We just have to go and do a few things differently all the time. And that will make us 10% better than our competitors and will be remarkable to our clients if we do that all the time. I think it's a little bit freeing to think this way. And that's why I think we've had the conversation 2 years ago, a little bit around being just that 10% all the time. But for me, I think it's important for our listener to be thinking about this and how can they just do that 10% and then make sure that it gets done all the time and have those conversations with customers because it leads to long-term success.
So as long as we're talking numbers, and I know how many people in the audience love numbers, numbers are real important and you need to measure what you're doing. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And I'd like to make sure that everybody listening has a mechanism for getting feedback from your clients so that you understand if your customer service is delivering at the level that it should. And it's very easy to do a survey, and it should be a short survey. We don't want to give people survey fatigue unless they've agreed and signed on and are willing to get a free cup of coffee for completing the survey, then, and which I would still stay away from. Every once in a while, you should take a pulse on how things are going with your clients. And let's just say it's the end of tax season and you've done my tax return and you want to know from me, hey, was I happy? Did you communicate with me well? Did I get you what you needed on time? Maybe 3-4 questions and maybe one open-ended question, maybe an NPS, Net Promoter Score question on a scale of 0 to 10. What's the likelihood that you'd recommend us to a friend, a colleague, or a family member? That's a very telling statement. And maybe, on a scale of 0 to 10, how do you think we delivered when it comes to our customer/client service? And then, maybe an open-ended question. Is there one thing you can think of that would make the experience with us even better? And so there you've got 3 questions, and you can get so much information. You'll find out where you stand. You'll find out if they're willing to recommend you. And by the way, once you look at the numbers, well, they'll help you know where you stand. But if you've got somebody that didn't give you a high enough score to be, like on a scale of 0 to 10, would you recommend me? You need to find out why not. If they didn't give you a high rating on service, what did you do wrong? That means you pick up the phone. By the way, if they give you a good, score on that NPS, Net Promoter Score, you ought to talk to them and find out, what did we do right that earned us this high score? So numbers are really important.
I love it. And I think that's, you've given 3 great questions to use. And this can be done nowadays with survey tools, Google, Survey Monkey. I mean, there's just a bunch of tools. They're free. Most of them are free.
Yeah,
you got it. You got it. And so that's excellent. Now, when it comes to this book that you've written, is it a book that you sit down and read the whole thing, or is it a book where it's like you're going to go through chapters at a time, do some exercises? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it is. And by the way, as we were talking about, I used an example of an outside accounting firm that we use. But as a bookkeeper, you may be having more ongoing, regular business that you're doing on a much more frequent. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's weekly. Maybe you're doing payroll every 2 weeks, whatever. So finding out, doing a semi-annual survey might be good for those that, like me, that have incidents. Where one time a year is my big time that I'm dealing with my account. So that would mean after the service is performed. All right. So the book, The Convenience Revolution, it's a short enough book. You should sit down and go through it quickly. And then you should take with a highlighter and start thinking, which of these 6 principles apply to me? By the way, some companies, maybe only 1. Other companies like Amazon, all 6. By the way, I went and looked at the stat. It's 90% of American population is within 10 minutes of a Walmart. That's pretty amazing. Crazy accessible. So let me give you an example of one business, and it's not a huge business. It's a car dealership here in town. And actually I think they're a single branded dealership now. They used to have 2 brands inside, which by the way, there were 2 brands that were owned by the same parent company, but now they've split off. It's just their single brand, okay? And they're competing against the company that I've been buying cars from for 25 years. Why do I buy cars from this company for 25 years? Because this dealership was convenient in the sense that when I bring my car in for service, my office was less than a mile away. If they didn't have a loaner car for me, or I had to wait for the paperwork to be processed and I didn't want to wait, I would just walk to work because it only took about 15 minutes to walk to work. And then at the end of the day, I'd go back and pick up the car. So one day I'm driving around and I see, my wife says, "You've got to see this car. It's beautiful." And we see it in the showroom floor of a dealership that's 10 miles away. So I walk in and I nicely explain to the salesperson, "I'm probably not going to buy from you. You're 10 miles. I'm just, I like to be able to get my car and either walk to work or drop my car, walk to work, or if you've got a loaner." He goes, "Okay, go drive the car. Tell me what you think." "Really? You want me to drive it?" "I still want you to drive it, even if you don't think you're going to buy it from us. Let's have some fun today." I love this salesperson. He's so friendly. He's getting me in the car. Not only that, he didn't even go with me in the car, which I couldn't believe. He said, "Yeah, you and your wife drive, come back in a half an hour, enjoy yourselves." Really, this guy's amazing. No pressure from this guy. So I fell in love with this car. By the way, this isn't the important part of the story. I'm just telling you, I love the car. And I could have bought this car from this dealership or the one near me or a bunch of others. But I came in and my exact words to this salesperson was, so he goes, "What do you think?" I go, "What's it going to take for you to put me in this car today?" And he goes, "What? That's like my line." And I go, "I'm serious. I love the car. But honestly, I told you before, this is too far away." And this is when he drops it on me, the big one. Here it is. He goes, "Take a look around here. Do you see a waiting room in our dealership?" And I'm looking around. I go, "No." He goes, "We have one, but it's very small." So this is what we do. When you buy a car from us, the next time you need to come into this dealership, will not be because of service, because we will bring you a brand new car to drive for the day or 2 to 3 days, however long it takes to get your car serviced. We'll bring your car back when it's finished. You come in here next time to buy another car.
Wow.
And I go, wow, that's pretty high level service. That's convenience. And guess what? They disrupted my 25-year-old long-standing dealership because they were more convenient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the 6 convenience principles are, and I'll give them to you in under 60 seconds, are number 1, simply reduce friction, make it easier. And there's an element of this in all 6 of the principles. Think about what Uber did compared to having to, if you don't live in the city, pick up a phone, call a taxi cab, wait for the cab, pay for it as before you get out of the cab. Uber and Lyft, they eliminated all of that. Number 2 is a self-service solution. What can you do to create a self-service solution for your customers? And in the case of maybe you have clients that want to meet and you can educate them that, hey, you can call and make an appointment like most people do, or go on our website. And we've created a great little calendar system where you can go in and block some time and that'll set the appointment that way. That's self-service. 3 is technology. And by the way, that self-service example I just used was due to technology, but technology can stand on its own as well. Think about how PayPal made it so easy to transfer money from me to you. Doesn't that sound good? I'm transferring money to me to you. But they did it so quickly. It's so quick and easy to do, and it's done with technology. It's convenient. It's frictionless almost. Number 4 is to create a subscription model where somebody pays ongoing for services they know they're going to get all the time. And it could be in our business with accountants and bookkeeping. You just pay a monthly fee, and that's for any need we know what the average client is going to need. Some will need more, some will need less. But here's a flat fee that we've worked out that'll get you all the services you need. You never have to worry about whether you use it or not. You pay for it, and some months you'll use it more. And you follow me? So it's a subscription model. You can get your dog food delivered once a month from Chewy.com. That's a subscription model. Amazon's now giving you subscription options rather than just single purchase options. Number 5, we already talked about it. That's delivery. Take it to the customer. Maybe we go visit our clients rather than make them come to us, just like the automobile dealership delivered the car to me. And number 6, we've talked about that, is accessibility. What are your hours of operation? How close you are, if you even need to be close to your customers, is it convenient? So there you go. Those are the 6 principles.
I'm absolutely excited about getting into this book. I love the concept. I love your stories. My mind is just flowing with ideas for how to improve our own business and experience for our customers. And I'm sure our listener is doing the same. It doesn't have to be 20, 30%, only has to be 10 all the time. Shep, there are speakers who are rock star speakers, and there are speakers who have rock star content. You have both. You really demonstrate.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, you demonstrate. I mean, it's just you can tell this has been your life's work. You are passionate about it. You share it so well. You're such a wonderful storyteller. And we are so privileged to have you come on the show and share what you've shared with us today, helping small businesses right around the world get it better and so that they have a better legacy for themselves. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
You'd be a great speaker at any of these events that bookkeepers are doing. Like there's some really, really big events with QuickBooks, does like 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And then there's Scaling New Heights. They have a big audience there. You're fantastic. I don't know if you've spoken at any of those yet, but wow.
I do. I haven't yet. Quicken, I used to know the guy who's in charge of customer service for Quicken, and we talked about it. When are you going to have me come to your event? Yeah. And they never have. But and there's lots of them. But yeah, that's what I do. That's the primary way there's 3 income sources here at our company. 1 is me speaking. 2 is training. We have trainers that deliver my content. And 3 is online training. And I think probably the speaking side of it is about 60% of our revenue. Well, this year it might be a little bit higher.
Absolutely. Now, Shep, as well, I want to let our listener know that we will put a link to that book. I think this is a book that not only is this a great book to read for themselves as being owners of bookkeeping businesses, this is a fantastic book to buy for your clients that you love.
Oh yeah,
right? It's like you could just see this is such a fantastic concept, and every small business can leverage this and make it better inside their business. So I hope you'll take that up and buy a couple of books and give them away as gifts in the holiday season or whenever throughout the year. Surprise your customer with something nice that will help them down the track. So wonderful. Again, Shep.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.
And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. And as well, if you found this interview podcast episode valuable, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'd love to know what we're doing well and as well what we can do better. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.